This is the demonstration video for the hard shell tacos with Mexican hot chocolate. Cooking principles. 1. Tacos originated in Mexico. Chocolate originated in Mexico. Let's take a look at some of the foods that we are using in today's recipe. Did you know they come from indigenous peoples of Mexico? Mexico, a country that helps make up North America, is found south to Canada and is the country that originates this taco recipe. Tacos are thought to have come from Mexico long before Spanish explorers arrived. The indigenous people known as the Aztecs, the Incans, and the Mayans were known to make a soft, flat corn tortilla and give them fillings such as fish and cooked organs. It was a staple meal that provided vital nutrients and energy to those who consume it. These tacos did not contain cheese, lettuce, sour cream, or tomatoes that we associate with meals like today. In fact, tacos that we eat today are less than 100 years old. Chocolate also originated from Mexico. Cacao, the seed in which we make cocoa butter, and chocolate, has long been grown in Mexico. Ancient civilizations of the Aztecs and Mayans used to grow cacao and use it for currency, to drink as a bitter drink, and even in religious ceremonies. When Spanish explorers arrived in Mexico, they brought back cacao to Spain. It was there when Spanish monks combined the cacao with sugar and cinnamon, making it to resemble the chocolate that we know today. Corn that makes up our hard shell taco has also been grown in Mexico for over 10,000 years. Ancient civilizations like the Aztecs and Mayans and Incans viewed corn as a sacred plant. Today, there are approximately 50 different varieties of corn in the world. It continues to play a central role in Mexican cuisine. Tomatoes are thought to be Italian in origin, but really they come from the indigenous peoples of Mexico. When Spanish explorers first arrived in Mexico, they thought the tomatoes were poisonous. However, after they saw the Aztecs were using them in their cooking, they learned they are edible and started to bring them back to Europe. Chili peppers are also an indigenous food of Mexico. They date back thousands of years to the Mesoamerican period. Chili peppers are not just known for using for their heat, but also for their flavor. Chilies are toasted, ground, or soaked, and usually incorporated into countless dishes, including salsas, moles, and soup. It was said that ancient Mayans would often put chili pepper in their hot chocolate drink that they gave to all their warriors for strength. And lastly, vanilla originates from Mexico. Vanilla was considered sacred and used only in ritual offerings. It wasn't until the 1400s when the Aztecs combined vanilla with chocolate that they started really using it as a flavoring. Soon, vanilla became the favorite beverage of European royalty as Spanish explorers brought it back with them. Mexican vanilla is still regarded today as having the best flavor and fragrance in all of the world. Cooking principle number 2, meat cookery. Avoid cross-contamination. Cutting boards are an easy place for cross-contamination to occur. It is recommended that you have at least 2 different cutting boards, one in the kitchen. We have one that you can use for raw fruits and vegetables on, and we have one that you can use for raw meat. Making sure you use the right board for the right job is essential. That way we don't accidentally put bacteria that could be harmful onto our fruits and veggies, for they will never be cooked at as high temperature as meat does. Also, washing your hands after every time you either touch raw meat or handle it. That way you don't accidentally transfer the bacteria to any other food items or pieces of equipment. Heat destroys harmful organisms. Meat is often cooked to make it tasty and appealing, however it's also cooked to make it safe to eat as well. E. coli lives in the intestine of cattle, and often during slaughtering it may contaminate the meat. Ground beef is especially risky because bacteria can spread when the meat is ground up. It is important that our ground beef reaches the temperature of 160 degrees Celsius, ensuring that all the E. coli bacteria has been killed off during cooking. Heat can coagulate, toughen meat proteins. You might notice when cooking meat, the meat shrinks from the original size that you put in the pan. As proteins and muscle fibers and its connective tissues coagulate, meat juices are squeezed out of the muscle cells. Heating of the meat will also cause the fat to melt, and this might often collect into our skillet today. It is important that you use a nice medium temperature to help control the shrinkage, but also not overcook the meat, causing the protein to be too tough and chewy to consume. Cooking principle number 3, milk cookery. Milk burns or scorches easily. Protein and milk will settle on the bottom of the pan, start to stick together, and scorch. it is recommended to use a double boiler over medium heat to prevent this from happening. However, if a double boiler is not available, using a regular saucepan heated on very low heat should work. This method takes longer than a double boiler, but the temperature is low enough that scorching can be avoided. Milk is easily curdled. Milk has been known to curdle easily when combining with a food that is acidic or when cooking at a super high temperature. And sometimes, if the milk is less fresh, it is more likely to curdle when heated. The lactic acid bacteria normally found in milk can change the milk sugar into lactic acid. Milk with a higher acid content curdles more easily. It's important to use fresh milk, a low temperature, and thicken the milk or an acid food before combining them together. Nutrition. Hard shell tacos. Taco shells have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are responsible for supplying the body with energy, sparing protein, and assisting the utilization of fats. Beef has protein, fat, iron, selenium, phosphorus, zinc, and vitamin B. Protein. It is essential for building muscle, repairing all types of body tissue, regulating body processes, forming antibodies to fight infection, and supplying your body with energy. Fat. Fat helps protect your body and insulate body parts such as major organs, supplies energy to your whole body, transports fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K, and supplies your body with essential fatty acids needed for functioning. Iron. Iron is needed to help build hemoglobin in the red blood cells to help transport oxygen and carbon dioxide, preventing nutritional anemia. Selenium, which is an essential trace mineral that supports many bodily processes. It can help improve cognitive functions, immune system function, thyroid hormone metabolism, and fertility. Phosphorus. The main function of phosphorus is the formation of bones and teeth. It is also needed for the body to make protein for growth, maintenance, and the repair of cell and tissues. Zinc. Zinc is a nutrient found throughout your body. It helps your immune system and metabolism function. Zinc is also important in wound healing and your sense of taste and smell. B vitamins help the body turn carbohydrates into energy, help with normal growth and development of the body, maintain good appetite and normal digestion, and is essential for the proper functioning of your nervous system. Vegetables provide vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin K. Vitamin A is needed for normal growth and formations of bones and teeth, for maintaining normal vision, resisting infection by keeping your skin and lining layer of your body healthy. Vitamin C. It is essential for growth, development, and repair of the body tissues. It is also needed for the absorption of iron, proper functioning of the immune system, wound healing, and the maintenance of cartilage, bones, and teeth. Vitamin K. Vitamin K refers to a group of fat-soluble vitamins that play a role in blood clotting, bone metabolism, and regulating of blood calcium levels. Cheese provides calcium and protein. Calcium is responsible for forming strong bones and teeth and maintaining and repairing the skeleton, maintaining muscle, tone, normal heartbeat, and healthy nerve functions, and aiding normal blood clotting. Mexican hot chocolate. Milk provides calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin D. Vitamin D, also known as the sunshine vitamin, the major biological function of vitamin D is to maintain normal blood levels of calcium and phosphorus. Water. Water is the most single important item in a dietary intake. The need for it in your body is only second next to oxygen. A person can live weeks without food, but death results within a few days when water is not available. About 70% of the body mass is water. It's necessary for all body cells to provide the medium for essential chemical processes, for the transportation of oxygen and nutrients in the cells, for the absorption of water-soluble vitamins. It helps regulate body temperature, serves as lubricant, and aids in digestion, and for the transportation of waste products for elimination. Ingredients. Hard-shelled tacos. 300 grams of lean ground beef. Ground beef is an inexpensive way to add protein to our filling of our taco today. It is full of fat, which means flavor and moisture, which is great because our taco has a hard shell that's fairly dry, and we want our fillings to be moist to complement the texture. Half an onion. Today we're using a yellow onion, and this will be a part of our filling of our taco today. Onions are known to have a great source of vitamin C, vitamin B6, and manganese. Onions also contain antioxidant properties known to help the stomach and gastrointestinal tract. 1 garlic clove. Garlic is an easy way to flavor any dish with a really strong, pungent flavor for such a little amount. It is a member of the lily family, and it's closely related to onions, shallots, and leeks. 6 milliliters of chili powder. Chili powder is actually a blend of spices. It usually has dried ground chili and also things like oregano, cumin, garlic, onion, and cayenne pepper. Chili powder allows you to add spice and flavor as well as heat to your dish without it being overwhelming. It is said that a dish is not considered Mexican cuisine unless chili powder has been added to it. 1 milliliter salt. Salt enhances any natural flavors found within any dish. Today, our salt will help bring out the flavors and the juiciness of our beef. 4 large taco shells. Taco shells are the structure that holds our whole entire taco together, cradling the filling in its U-shaped design. Taco shells are typically yellow corn tortillas that have been baked or deep fried to hold their U-shaped design. It is a big debate whether a taco is a sandwich or just considered a simple meal, but tacos were the original street food or fast food of silver miners that came up from Mexico into the US. In the early 1900s, it was easy to put high-protein filling in between the 2 carbohydrate shells and take it to eat on the go. 1 medium tomato. Tomatoes are a great source of vitamin C, potassium, folate, and vitamin K. Without our tomatoes, we could not absorb the iron from our beef today. It is a great addition to pair these two when making a taco. 1/6 of a head of lettuce. Today we're using iceberg lettuce. Iceberg lettuce is great to use when you're pairing it with a hot filling like the beef because it will not wilt as easily as, say, a romaine lettuce. Lettuce is really high in vitamin K, but it also contains small amounts of vitamin A and potassium and has mainly a lot of water. 170 grams of cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese can act as a binder today. As it melts, it helps hold our loose ground beef filling together along with some of our other filling ingredients. Cheddar cheese will not only add an extra flavor to our filling ingredients, but add a pop of color as well amongst the red of the tomato and the green of the lettuce. Cheddar cheese is also another excellent source of protein, high in calcium, and has trace amounts of vitamin A and D. Taco sauce. 200 milliliters of tomato sauce. Tomato sauce is usually pureed tomatoes that have been simmered over a long period of time, added spices. Taco sauce is a great way to allow people to customize the spice and flavor of their tacos. You can add a little or even a lot to make the heat more intense. 2 milliliters of cider vinegar. Cider vinegar is usually made by fermenting apples and water together over time. By adding a splash of cider vinegar to our tomato sauce, it will actually help it reduce in volume a little further while simmering. It will also help balance out the saltiness of flavor and lift up the sweetness of the tomatoes in the sauce. 6 milliliters of chili powder. Chili powder not only adds warmth and spice to our dish, but creates the heat as well. 2 milliliters of ground cumin. Cumin is a member of the parsley family, and it's edible seeds that's used in our spice today. Its flavor is described as being rich, hearty, earthy, and warm with an edge of citrus. Cumin is one of the main flavors in chili powders, tacos, and even many curries. 1 milliliter salt. Salt enhances natural flavors found within any dish. In our taco sauce today, it will be the blend of spices being balanced out in the tomato sauce today. Few grains garlic powder. Garlic powder is a spice derived from dehydrated garlic. A few grains of it will add another layer of complexity in our spice blend in our taco sauce. Few grains oregano. Oregano is a peppery herb that's been dried. It will add another depth and warmth to our taco sauce today. And a few grains black pepper. Black pepper helps change the flavor of foods by adding depth and some spice. It's often adding the black pepper where the spice and the heat of the other spices will come forward more, much like adding salt to enhance natural flavors. Mexican hot chocolate. 30 milliliters of cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is the base flavor for our hot chocolate today. Cocoa powder is made from dried and ground cocoa solids, and it is what's left over after most of the cocoa butter or fat has been processed out of the chocolate for other uses. Once rehydrated, it will offer a rich, fudgy flavor anything it's added to. 30 milliliters of sugar. Sugar not only sweetens our drink today, but it will also help change its final color. It will go from a very pale chocolate milk color to a very deep, rich brown that almost resembles melted chocolate itself. Few grains salt. Salt enhances natural flavors today, and today we're trying to bring a balance out between the chocolate and the vanilla that we're adding. 30 milliliters cold water. Cold water is used to help rehydrate the cocoa powder, turning it into a smooth mixture before adding in the milk. That way, we do not have any lumps. 400 milliliters of milk. Today we're using 2% milk. It is lower in fat, but will still have a rich, creamy flavor when all ingredients are simmered together on the stovetop. 3 milliliters of vanilla. Vanilla will play a secondary flavor in our hot chocolate today. Vanilla actually comes from the orchid plants found in Mexico. The word vanilla actually comes from the Spanish word vena, meaning little pod. Half a cinnamon stick. Cinnamon is actually the bark of a tree, and here it is rolled up in a dried form. When you simmer the liquid with the stick, the flavor will slowly leach out into the waters and help give an extra warmth and depth to our hot chocolate. A few green cloves. Cloves actually come from the middle of the flower that blooms on a clove tree, which is an evergreen. In Mexican cuisine, cloves are best known to accompany cumin and cinnamon in any dish they are featured. Cloves are best known for their aromatics and their depth of warmth they give any dish, which is perfect for our hot chocolate. This is the final look at all the ingredients needed for the hard shell tacos and Mexican hot chocolate. Equipment. For this recipe, you will need measuring equipment, including liquid, dry, and small measures, metal spatula, custard cups, cutting board, chef's knife, bread knife, large skillet, 2 wooden spoons, jelly roll pan, dinner plate, a metal spoon, 2 saucepans, one for the taco sauce and one for the hot chocolate, a grater, oven mitts, hot mat, whisk, and finally a ladle. Table setting. The table setting you will need for the hard shell tacos and Mexican hot chocolate is a placemat, a dinner plate, a fork, a napkin, a cup, and saucer. That is everything you need for the hard shell tacos and Mexican hot chocolate. Method. Starting with the hard shell tacos. Practice Biscuit before you start your lab. Books away, aprons on. Roll back your sleeves, tie back up your hair or take off your hats. Stack your chairs, wash your hands, get out your equipment and your towels. Step 1. Oven racks levels number 3 and number 4. Preheat oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. We're preheating the oven today so that we can warm up our taco shells before we add the filling. Make sure you hit the bake button and then the arrow down to get 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure the oven's preheated before adding the taco shells. Step 2. Finely chop onion, mince garlic. Let's start by peeling off the outer layer of our onion. You're going to notice I left the onion root on the onion still. It helps hold all the layers together. I put a few slices in on the side and then put a few more slices across the onion when it's on a flat surface. Using my rock and chop motion with my chef's knife, I'll go across the onion until I have a whole bunch of 1 centimeter small diced pieces. Put the onion off to the side and let's do the garlic. Now, I put the garlic on the cutting board and using my chef's knife, I'll put a little pressure and crush the clove of garlic with the palm of my hand and the knife. This will actually help peel the skin off the garlic quite easily. Trim off any ends, especially the hard one where the roots once were. Then, using the chef's knife, gently rock and chop across the garlic. Keep sliding the garlic pieces off the edge of the knife. because they tend to stick to the sides. Keep rocking and chopping along the garlic until it becomes small, very tiny minced pieces. These should be less than 2 millimeters wide. Step 3. In a skillet, fry ground beef over medium heat. Number 5. Until partially brown, still has some pink color. Now only add your ground beef once your skillet is very hot enough that a few drops of water will sizzle right away. Ground beef is beef that has been chopped up with a meat grinder or mincing machine. Ground beef is generally made from less tender and less popular cuts of beef. Trimmings from tender cuts may also be used. Although any cut of beef can be used to produce ground beef, chuck steak is often most popular because of its rich flavor and balanced to meat to fat ratio. Round steak is also often used. Because ground beef has already been processed through a meat grinder, so many different areas have been exposed to bacteria infecting the meat, and it is important we cook it thoroughly so that we do not get food poisoning from something like E. coli. Step 4. Add chopped onion, minced garlic, salt, pepper, and chili powder. Continue to saute, fry, until the beef is no longer pink or red inside, and the onions are soft and transparent. Use wooden spoon to break up the meat during cooking. Be careful not to overcook. So using your wooden spoon, often go around breaking up the chunks of meat into smaller pieces as it cooks. Be careful of the temperature. Medium is best so that we don't accidentally evaporate all the fat and dry out our meat completely. Remember, too high of heat toughens our proteins in our meat, making it really chewy and very inedible. Now let's add all our spices to our cooked beef mixture. You're going to notice that our chili powder is actually quite red in color and will tint our meat mixture that color as well. This can be tricky because now it will make it difficult for us to tell whether our beef is cooked or not. You need to take a large section of beef, lift it up with a wooden spoon, and try to cut it open with the side of a fork. When you see into the inside, it should be a solid brown color throughout and not show any signs of pink or red. Step 5. Drain any excess fat into a tin can. Now using a metal spoon, gently tilt your pan so that all the fat runs to one side. Gently scoop it out and put it into a tin can. We want to make sure we remove the fat because too much would actually soak right through our hard taco shell, making it mushy. Step 6. Place taco shells on a jelly roll pan and place in oven to brown. Check shells often to make sure they don't burn. Now the taco shells won't get too much darker than what you see here, just make sure they're evenly spaced apart and give them enough room for heat circulation to flow through. Step 7. Chop tomato, grate cheese, and shred lettuce. Arrange on a dinner plate. Now, let's slice the tomato. I'm going to slice the tomato using a bread knife. It has a serrated edge, which will make it easier to saw through this soft fruit. If you use a chef's knife, you're more likely to slip on the edge of the skin and cut yourself. First, I'm going to take the tomato and cut it in half so I have a flat surface to work with. Slice across the tomato, creating several lines about 1 centimeter apart. Then, go perpendicular to your cuts, slicing across, creating perfectly cubed pieces. Place all cut pieces on a dinner plate off to the side so that your group mates will have a chance to add their own fillings to their taco. Repeat again, using the other half of the tomato, the same steps, creating 1 by 1 centimeter diced pieces. Make sure you clean the cutting board off before you grate your cheddar cheese. We want to hold the grater on the cutting board so that as it moves around, it won't scratch your countertop. Hold the grater firmly and the block of cheese in your other hand. Grate very slow. Make sure you're mindful of where your fingertips are and where the blade is of the grater. Make sure you rotate the block of cheese often so you do not develop a sharp edge. That is more likely to slip and grate your hand. When you're at the end of the cheddar cheese block, gently use your hands to push through the final bit of cheese. Be careful that you do not go too fast and that you just slowly push the cheese through to finish off the grating. Place on the dinner plate along with the tomato. For the lettuce, let's trim off the hard end that's often dry and quite thick and bitter. Then, using your chef's knife, gently shred the lettuce by going small steps along the length. We want to make sure the pieces are half a centimeter in width. Place the lettuce on the dinner plate with your other fillings, the tomato and the cheese. Step 8. Assemble the tacos by dividing the meat between the shells. Top this way any or all of the following: cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, and taco sauce. Now this is a better thing to do when you have a partner that can help you hold the shells while you top your taco. Because I'm demonstrating with the camera, they tend to fall over a couple times. I start by taking the ground beef mixture and putting it at the bottom of my tacos. Then I place some of my taco sauce on top. I like my tacos spicier, so I'm going to add a lot of the taco sauce. Then add a little bit of the iceberg lettuce, some of the tomatoes, and cheese to finish off the topping. You could also put the cheese on top of the hot meat mixture, having it melt slightly so that it holds not only the meat together, but also some of the fillings to it. The order you put your toppings in is truly up to you. This recipe serves 4, each person getting their own taco. Let's go over the steps for the taco sauce recipe. Step 1. In a small saucepan, combine tomato sauce, cider vinegar, chili powder, ground cumin, salt, garlic powder, oregano, and pepper. Heat thoroughly over low heat. Making taco sauce is very easy. Just make sure you remember to keep the heat very low and not to burn the tomato sauce. Tomato sauce itself is usually quite high in sugar, so it's quick to burn. To avoid burning from happening, just make sure you give it a couple stirs once in a while with the wooden spoon. I recommend you set the taco sauce up at the very beginning of the lab before you start doing your ground beef mixture. That way it has a time to simmer on the stovetop. Now how thick you want the sauce is truly up to you. The longer you simmer it, the more likely the water content will evaporate and reduce the sauce. If you don't simmer it that long, it'll still be very thin and water-like. But the longer you have it to simmer on the stove with all the spices, the more complex and rich the flavor of your taco sauce will be. This recipe yields 4 servings for 4 tacos. And now the method for the Mexican hot chocolate. In a small saucepan, mix together cocoa powder, sugar, and salt. One thing I always say is make sure you measure your cocoa powder accurately. Cocoa powder itself is actually quite bitter, and we need to make sure we balance the sugar to cocoa powder ratio. Some students think by adding more cocoa powder, it will taste more chocolatey. This is not the case. In fact, it will be more bitter, like dark chocolate. Make sure you give it a good stir with a wooden spoon, evenly distributing the salt throughout. Step 2. Stir in water, add cinnamon stick. What you want to do is slowly add the water gradually, making the mixture almost like a smooth, thick paste. Make sure you constantly stir, making sure there's no lumps forming. Lumps at this stage will equal lumps in your hot chocolate later. Keep stirring constantly, going through all the surface area of the bottom of the sauce pot, making sure you've gotten all the powder dissolved into the liquid. When you think your mixture is completely hydrated and completely smooth, then and only then can you add the cinnamon stick in. Step 3. Over medium heat, stir until it boils. Do not use a higher heat. We need to be cautious because even though the milk has not been added to our mixture yet, we can still burn this quite easily because we have our saucepan on direct heat. There is a lot of sugar in this mixture, and sugar often will start caramelizing and burning even with the slightest amount of heat. Make sure you keep an eye on this mixture. Make sure you stir occasionally. Step 4. Let it boil for 1 to 2 minutes to cook the starch. Now, what most people don't know is that cocoa powder often has a hidden secret ingredient, which is usually cornstarch. Cornstarch is a thickening agent. Now, in our hot chocolate, there's such a little amount in there that it will only thicken the liquid slightly, giving it a creamy texture, making our 2% seem like full-fat cream. But the starch often has a taste to it, so cooking it off at this boiling stage will make sure it stays hidden in our hot chocolate mixture. Now, because we're allowing this mixture to boil, you do need to make sure you stir it occasionally, like every 30 seconds, making sure it's not burning to the bottom. You need to let it boil and simmer slightly. Make sure if you need to, you can lower the heat as you go along. Whatever you do not raise the temperature. Step 5. Add milk and heat to steaming. Do not boil. This is a very important stage. If the mixture is too hot, we can accidentally curdle our milk or scald it. Add the milk slowly. This will help temper the mixture as the milk is being added. You will notice that often it will try to clump up or lump up when added. That is the starch that's in the cocoa powder. Just go slow, constantly stirring little bits at a time. If you did this correctly, your mixture will be lump-free and very smooth. Now, slowly let the mixture reheat up and steam. Again, if you let this mixture boil, the milk will actually separate out as milk fat, it will curdle up to the top, and your hot chocolate will be spoiled. And because I'm on direct heat, you'll notice that I have to stir it occasionally, like every 1 to 2 minutes, making sure the milk protein hasn't settled down to the bottom, sticking together, and it will actually start to burn on the bottom. Very important that you treat this milk as gently as possible, obeying all milk cookery principles. Step 6. Stir in vanilla and ground cloves. To add our final spices, we're going to take our hot chocolate mixture off heat and put it on a hot mat on the countertop. We need to do this because vanilla often evaporates with high heat, so when it's slightly cool, and we'll add it in so that we keep that flavor. Then add only a small pinch of cloves. Cloves is quite a powerful taste. A little goes a long way. Step 7. Whisk until foamy. Ladle hot chocolate into cups. The whisk will help add in air, which will help froth up our mixture, making it a little light and foamy. Make sure you whisk it for about 1 to 2 minutes until you see bubbles forming on the top. Then, using a ladle, slowly whisk into cups. It's a good idea to place your cups on a saucer so that way when you transport it around, you have more stability and you're less likely to splash and spill the mixture. The yield for this recipe serves 4. Test for doneness. Hard-shell tacos. 1. Beef is thoroughly cooked, brown throughout. 2. Onions are soft and transparent. 3. Taco shells are lightly browned. Mexican hot chocolate. 1. Milk is steaming. 'Standards. 1. Ground beef is fully cooked, broken up into small bite-sized pieces. When I look at your beef mixture, I see smaller pieces all around the pan that are evenly cooked throughout. It's important that you use your wooden spoon to help break it up, especially if your meat was previously frozen. 2. Onions are soft and transparent. When we look at your onions, we can tell they've been cooked for an appropriate length of time, allowing them to slowly soften up and absorb some of the beef fat, so that way they're full of flavor and fully cooked. 3. Taco shells are lightly browned, not burnt. You will notice some slight browning on parts of the taco shells that are raised up. Make sure you keep an eye on these in the oven. If you leave them too long, they will slowly brown to a lovely golden brown shade, which is great for baking, but not for tacos. 4. Vegetables are evenly diced and shredded into the appropriate size. You made sure you took the time to cut your toppings up, so that way you have small bite-sized pieces. When biting a taco, it's important that we get everything, all parts of the filling, making sure that we get all the flavor as well. For the Mexican hot chocolate, 1. Smooth texture, no lumps. You made sure you tempered your milk little bits at a time, adding gradually. If you added it too fast, you would have had a lumpy mixture. 2. Flavors, spices, nicely balanced, no starch taste. You took the time to add your spices and measure correctly. You made sure you helped boil the mixture so that the cocoa powder no longer has the taste of the cornstarch within it. 3. Steaming in temperature and foamy in texture. You made sure you didn't boil your milk so that way it didn't curdle. It has a nice texture and temperature. You made sure also that you whisked your mixture so that you added a lot of air in to create the foamy top. These are all the standards for both the hard shell tacos and the Mexican hot chocolate. Now let's take a look at my demonstration, starting with the ground beef mixture. My ground beef is in small, bite-sized chunks. You can see that my onions are fully cooked and they're slightly transparent, and they absorb some of the beef fat. I'm going to check the inside of one of my pieces to make sure it's fully cooked by cutting it in half using a metal fork on top of the wooden spoon. It is important that everything is fully cooked, making sure we destroyed any harmful bacteria that might have been found within our meat. Now let's look at the taco sauce. The taco sauce had a chance to simmer on the stovetop and reduce in volume, showing me that the liquid has evaporated and the spices had a chance to blend well within the sauce. And for our tacos, that they are well filled with all of our filling ingredients, including the beef, the taco sauce, lettuce, tomatoes, and cheddar cheese. Make sure they are really well packed and not looking like they're lacking in filling or too full that they're starting to break from too much filling. And the hot chocolate is nice and foamy on the top, has lots of air been added into it with the whisk, and has been neatly poured into the cup, not spilled or splashed anywhere onto the saucer below. Tacos are a great way to introduce an international dish into our sandwich unit. Pairing it with the Mexican hot chocolate, helping to teach you about Mexican cuisine and indigenous foods. I hope you enjoyed it. Happy cooking, and thanks for watching.